السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. In a few minutes, inshallah, we're going to continue with our fiqh classes. In a few minutes, we're going to continue with our fiqh class. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For those who are staying behind, inshallah, you can come closer. There's more space here. Unless if you're running away from the camera, that's different. Barakallahu feekum. You're really far, you know. Are you going to be with us? بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم ابسط علينا رحمتك وانشر علينا من حكمتك وافتح لنا فتوح العارفين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم آمين يا رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته once again. Inshallah ta'ala, in today's class we are going to cover the obligations of ghusl and the sunan of ghusl and the fada'il of ghusl. Those are very simple. Lakin there are masail which relate to this topic and you cannot ignore them. Many of us try to overlook, but we have to be careful with them, inshallah. قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى نفعنا الله به وبعلومه في الدارين باب فرائض الغسل وسننه وفضائله. فأما فرائض الغسل فخمسة: النية وتعميم الجسد بالماء ودلك جميع الجسد والفور وتخليل الشعر. وأما سننه فأربعة: غسل اليدين أولا إلى كوعيه والمضمضة والاستنشاق ومسح صماخ الأذنين. وأما فضائله فستة: البدء بغسل الأذى عن جسده، ثم إكمال أعضاء وضوئه، وغسل الأعالي قبل الأسافل، وتثليث الرأس بالغسل، والبدء بالميامن قبل المياسر، وقلة الماء مع إحكام الغسل. والله أعلم. والله أعلم. نعم. There is more that carries on, but I wouldn't want to cover that yet. It goes on as well. Istinthar وهذا. I don't want to go to all of that. Let's just cover what we have first. أما فرائض الغسل, the obligations of ghusl, literally have taken a ritual bath. A ritual bath. As the ulama provide in one of the definitions of al-ghusl, what do they say? It is to do what? You either take a ghusl لماذا؟ لرفع الحدث, to lift a hadath, or, and that is either what type of hadath are you trying to lift? The janaba, which is known as al-hadathu al-akbar. Jazakumullah khairan. When you have a major impurity, is known as al-hadathu al-akbar. When it's minor, what does minor impurity require from you? If you have a minor hadath, what does it require from you? Wudu. And it's known as al-hadathul asghar. Asghar means small. Akbar means big. So if someone's name is Akbar, just know that it means he's great. Know that. That's why we say Allahu Akbar. The moment you say Allahu Akbar in salah, everything else becomes small. Understood? Only Allah becomes great at that moment. Now, not only that, he carries on over here, the sharih, في شرح الجواهر الزكية, he says أو استباحة ممنوع أو الفرض. It is to make that which was prohibited halal now, to make it mubah, or for you to be able to do what? To complete a fard. For example, when you are in a state of hadath for a lady, she's in a state of hadath when she has just entered into her menses. The moment she completes her menses, she has to take that ritual shower. Understood? So she has to lift that. She has to lift that by taking the shower so she can be pure again and able to pray. Understood? And if we carry on, something that he mentions over here, I don't want to enter into niyyah first. Al-hadath al-asghar yakfi bil-wudu, by the way, as we said. The minor hadath is enough with wudu. It's enough with wudu. What else can you do for a minor hadath if you can't do actual wudu? Tayammum. What about major hadath? What else can you do with it? Huh? If you want to get yourself out of a major hadath and you don't have water, what would you do? Tayammum. Okay. Now, can tayammum literally replace water? You cannot replace water. You cannot replace water. Now, thing is, if I pray my dhuhr now, and then before the time of maghrib, I found water, but when I prayed dhuhr with tayammum. Because now I have found water, and dhuhr and asr, they are more or less attached to one another. Do I repeat my dhuhr or not? Who says yes? Who says no? Jazakumullah khairan. So a tayammum is a substitute, but it does not replace water, isn't it? That's why they say, إِذَا وُجِدَ الْمَاءُ بَطَلَ التَّيَمُّمُ. When you find water, tayammum becomes batil immediately in that case. But then there's a position where we've gone to literally tayammum. There's a position where you have water, but tayammum comes before water. Think about it. You have water, but tayammum precedes water in that case. Keep it to yourself, inshallah, until we come to tayammum, inshallah. When it comes to this now, أما فرائضه, العلماء يقولون عندما شرح صاحب الجواهر الزكية when he was doing Ibn Turki, rahimahullah ta'ala, when he was doing the sharh of this book, dissecting it, and as we said, it's the first sharh, Al-Jawahir al-Zakiyah, and then you have the major sharh, the main, basically the encyclopedia of the book, the sharh of the sharh. Now we're not going to go into that. We're just going to take something from it, which you wouldn't find in this one over here. He says that, once he said the fact that فَرَائِضُهُ فَخَمْسَةً, then he says after that, ثُمَّ أَخَذَ يَذْكُرُهَا مُفَصَّلَةً. If you read through it, and he starts breaking down the fara'id of ghusl, each after the other, the ulama, they literally go into depth a little bit. They say, it means if a person does not know the difference between a fard of ghusl and the sunnah of a ghusl and the fadila of a ghusl, basically just like how wudu, if you cannot differentiate between a fard of wudu and the sunnah of wudu and the meritorious act of wudu, in this case of ghusl, we're not talking about wudu, we're talking about ghusl, which ghusl is far greater than wudu, which means it does apply to wudu as well. Understood? That's why they mentioned it here. أخذ يذكرها مفصلة بمعنى, if this person cannot differentiate between the three, Al-Asili said that you cannot pray behind this person because his wudu, his ghusl is not accepted. He went that far. لكن الشبرخيتي, he said no. لكن المعتمد, the one that we take from the madhab, as long as he can fulfill all of them three even without knowing the order of which is which, and his ghusl is complete, then we acknowledge his ghusl to be sahih, accepted. Does that make sense? That's the correct answer. But this says something which I want to set the stage for you. It says, you must know the difference of a fard, of what you are doing, and the sunnah of it, and the fadila of it. You can't do that. It becomes extremely problematic. Because whenever you're doing your salah, or maybe you're doing your ghusl, or whenever you're doing your wudu or ghusl and that, you're going to have a trouble. What is the trouble? The trouble is when you won't be able to separate between them, between one another. Okay? Between each other. Now, when it comes to the word ghusl, what does the word ghusl mean? What does the word ghusl mean? Can someone tell me the meaning of ghusl? Huh? To wash. Okay. You're all correct, but it's not the actual answer. Huh? Ritual bath? Yes, but the ritual bath literally is everything. I want the actual meaning of the word ghusl. The word ghusl means doing the actual action of taking the shower. Understood? The action itself of taking that shower is ghusl. Understood? What about al-ghaslu? Al-ghasl is the water. Write that down. Do you see al-gha with a fatha? Now let me tell you, if you read sometimes, you notice that in the books there is no fatha kasra dhamma. So you need to know what you're reading. So al-ghaslu is the water itself that you use. Al-ghislu is what you use to take the shower with. For example, like soap. Could be a bar soap, can be shower gel, can be any of those. Shampoo, yes. Al-ghislu. Understood? It's the same word, but each one of them have a meaning. Al-ghislu is all those adat that you use to take a shower, the adawat, the tools. But when al-ghuslu is the actual action itself. Al-ghaslu is the water. Do you see the beauty of Arabic? One word looks the same, but you change the diacritic, you change the whole meaning. So you have to be really careful with that. Lakin, al-ma'na al-a'am, the general meaning of al-ghaslu, al-ghuslu, all of that, it means the same thing, taking a ritual bath. Unless if you're reading through a text that provides you more explanation and you want a clear definition or understanding, you must know the differences of them. Is that very clear? So that applies to the students of knowledge, inshallah. Okay. Number one, an-niyyah. Among the fara'id of al-ghusl is an-niyyah, intention. Intention. Intention محلها, they say al-qalbu. Yes, we all know that. Lakin in this case, the ulama, they've literally discussed about it by saying, when we say an-niyya, should we say mahalluha al-qalb? Is that the correct way of looking at it? No. The correct way of looking at mahalluha, where it belongs, عند الشروع, is when you leave your position, you want to go fulfill that deed. So it's not just the heart, but it's also beyond that. When you've left your position, you want to go take that shower, and you made the intention. عند شروعك, the moment you've left there and you've made the intention, that's the position of it. Now this raises the question, different from wudu. Wudu, you have to make the intention while you're washing your face, isn't it? We said that, right? But this one, does it require you to make the intention while you are making the actual shower, taking the actual shower, or can you do that before? Huh? Jazakumullah khairan. Yes, before. I'll tell you why. For example, for those, how many of you are married? Happily raise your hand up. You're not married, are you? I'm surprised your hand is down. For those who are not married, but nowadays, you know, the world that we live in, whether married or unmarried, you know everything already. So I can't separate between one another. You know everything. Some of those who are not married, they even master than the married ones. May Allah help us. They don't even need the teachers to teach them at school. Subhanallah. Al-Muhim. When you have intimacy with your spouse, don't go for a haram relationship. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا, don't forget that. After that, you leave your position where you are. It doesn't matter whether it's after 10 hours. Understood? As long as you don't delay a salah. You want to go make your ghusl. You've left your position for the intention of going to take that ghusl. But then before you take that ghusl, you did not clean yourself. You did not clean your private parts. When does the ghusl begin? Does the ghusl begin when you enter the shower, or does the ghusl begin when you start cleaning yourself? Jazakumullah khairan. Lakin then what about for a man? On your organ, you have two parts. You start washing the head of it, and then you dismiss the actual organ itself. Would that count? Would that count? As a man, you know yourself, how Allah created you. You have two parts of your organ. That one part, the whole part is two pieces. There's the edge of it, and then there's the actual ala itself. Isn't it? Now, if you wash just where محل خروج المني or محل خروج البول, where the urine exits or the mani exits, all of that. If you just wash that part and you do not wash the rest of your private part, would that be accepted? Would it fulfill the purpose of the intention? Would it be included as part of your ghusl? It wouldn't. Why? Because you need to wash everything. However, does that include your testicles? No. The answer is no. It does not include your testicles. Like when you're doing the ghusl, it does include so. Because we're going to come and explain how to do the actual ghusl itself. Does that make sense? So when you make the intention to go cleanse yourself first, purify yourself from all of the najasa, and then you do the actual ghusl, you must make sure you wash everything. Don't wash part and leave part. You finish in the entire cleanliness, then you enter to do the actual shower. When you're doing the actual shower, the ritual bath, are you cleansing yourself from impurity, or you're doing it out of a ritual? You're doing it because it's a ritual. But before that, you have the najasa. Ala hasab al-madhab, according to our madhab, mani is najasa, is najis. Sperms are najis, impure. Because it exits from the same exit as urine. It doesn't make any difference. Different from the Shafi'iyah. They say it's pure, isn't it? Yes, Harry.
Normally, let's say that you're in a place, you had intercourse with your wife, and there's no water. And salat time, it's closed. You can do tayammum.
Yes, if the salat time has entered, and you have no hope of water at all, or if you have hope of water, you hold on until the time comes to the very end. And when you reach to that time, however, and you have not had any access to water, you do your tayammum and you carry on. But that doesn't mean your ghusl does not apply anymore. Once you get water, you have to do the ghusl, but you don't have to repeat the salah. That's very clear, isn't it? Then there's no point of going through tayammum next week. We already covered everything. Khair inshallah. Okay. So when you make the intention, وَمَحَلُّهَا, that's why he mentions it over here. Although fil hashiyah is a little bit different. He says here, وَمَحَلُّهَا عِنْدَ أَوَّلِ مَغْسُولٍ سَوَاءً كَانَ الذَّكَرُ أَوْ غَيْرُهُ كَالرَّأْسِ. Even if it's the actual organ itself, or if it's just a part of it, it does not matter. As long as you want to do your ghusl, the position of making the intention is there. How about now that mas'ala which I mentioned, if you are to make the intention before you even get into the shower room, for example, it's mentioned in the hashiyah, not in this sharh. It's mentioned if, for example, you've left your station or your position, now you want to take the shower, from there you've made the intention. And for example, even if in the middle you were distracted with something else until you went to do the ghusl, you're fine. Does that make sense? Because you left your position for the intention of doing ghusl. And ghusl is different from wudu. Wudu, while you're doing it, your niyyah and your mind has to be connected there, because wudu is connected to salah. Does that make sense? Wudu is connected to salah immediately. But ghusl doesn't have to. Ghusl doesn't have to. Because majority of the times when you do wudu, why do you do wudu? For salah. Many of us, winter comes, you will only touch the water for salah. I'll be honest with you. We're scared of water during winter. Is that correct? And during summer, because we're used to not showering during winter, we're the most dirtiest people now. Because we don't have the habit of showering. I'm joking actually. I can see all of you are glowing out of the soaps and the shower gels. Alhamdulillah. Khair. That's about intention. I'm not going to cover more than that, although there's a lot of masail related to it. Now coming to the second fariḍah, ta'mimul jasadi bil ma', is to make sure your entire body is covered with water. This raises the question, what if? You already know when we say the entire body what it means, right? Does that include the inside part of the nose? Does it? Does it include the jawf of the mouth? Does it? Does it include the inside of the ears? Just the outside, isn't it? The inside of each one of these parts that we've mentioned doesn't include, except for the ahnaf. The ahnaf, they say you must. You have to do gargling, you have to rinse your nose, you have to do all of that, and fill your ears with water until the buckets come out of it as well. And the ahnaf, huh? Did we? No, that's for wudu. It's different. Yes. Yeah, but this for ghusl now. The actual ritual shower. The ritual shower for us, we do not need to do any gargling and that. But for the ahnaf, you must. The Hanafi you must, yeah. No, when you yeah. We're gonna come to the wudu, yeah. But then the question is doing wudu a fard or is it a sunnah? That's the question. Do you get what I mean? We're gonna come to that. So when you fill your body with water, the inside of your mouth, the inside of your nose, your eyes, don't worry about those. Just worry about the outer parts of your body. Khalas. That's one. Another thing, what if, while doing ghusl, you wouldn't do it on purpose, obviously. You don't want to wage a war between you and Allah. Understood? But obviously, when you're doing ghusl, you might forget a piece of your body. Lam'ah min bayni a'dha'ik. Or lam'atun min a'dha'ik. Some part of your body you might forget to put water on it and it will remain dry. If you left the bathroom and you've literally dried yourself out and you came to remember it before salah, let's not talk about after salah, okay? You came to remember before salah that there was a part of my body I don't remember it having water. What do you do in that moment? Do you go take another shower or do you what? Jazakumullah khairan. And we're both on the same side on that. You just cover that part. Understood? You just cover that part that's fully. But if you purposely leave it, and then if you purposely leave it, let's say for example, there's a phone call, you found it to be really important, and you hang on the phone with your friend until you left it and all of that, and you said, I'll come back later. You come back, you start again. Understood? Because you did this amda. Lakin in kunta nasiyan, if you forgot, then you just repeat that one part. Question is now, what if that happened after you finished your prayer? Would your prayer be forgiven? Huh? Your salah would not be accepted. You have to repeat the whole salah. Because you forgot a piece of what you needed to cover for the ghusl. It's for the ghusl, not the sunnah part of the ghusl, the fard part of the ghusl. And the fard of the ghusl is to make sure your entire body is filled with water. So if a piece of your part of your body is not covered with water, then that means you've missed a part of the fard. So you need to make sure that fard, it's like doing wudu. If you do wudu and you forgot to wash one of your hands, and then you went and prayed, then you remember there's a part of your hand you did not wash, or one hand you did not wash, would that salah be accepted? Now apply the same in ghusl as well. Does that make sense? The same applies in ghusl.
But this time, this ghusl is any part of your body, because every part of your body needs to cover with water.
Yes. All of your body needs to cover with water. Something I want to mention to you which is pretty interesting. Don't forget your question. I'll forget this point because I just remembered it now. Ghusl applies to 3 people. Can someone mention one? All of you know that. Come on. Who is the first one? A person of? An adult. No. 3 types of people. All of them are adults. Except for one is not an adult. No. It applies to 3 types of people. 3 people in 3. Basically, they're in a position where they require ghusl. Who are these 3 types of people? I'm married and I don't need a ghusl. I understand what you're saying though. First one is his, meaning janaba, right? Jazakumullah khairan. Number 2?
There's the dream janaba and there's janaba.
No, but it makes sense, it's janaba. That's the sentiment we need. And the second one is? A wife after? Okay. A woman after her menses. The third one is? Death?
He is not alive. He is not able to.
Janaza. Huh? Janaza, yes. Janaza. Yes. A person who enters Islam. That's a bit different. We're talking about these 3. Okay, we're talking about mainly these 3. These 3. For a person entering Islam, that's slightly different. But we're talking about these 3, they don't have a choice. They must take that shower. There's a dead person, the deceased, and then there's a woman from a hayd, and there's a married person who had a lovely time with his spouse. Isn't it? Or maybe you had a lovely time with your spouse in your dreams. And if you see the wrong person in your dream, don't tell your wife. She'll be jealous before she even sees her. Now look, in this case, there's only 1 bucket of water, and that 1 bucket of water is enough for 1 person. What do we do? Who comes first? Who is to be prioritized? The one with janaba, or the woman from her menses, or the dead person?
The dead person.
It makes sense the dead person to be first, right? Yeah, that's logically. But the correct answer...
No, the one with janaba.
The correct answer, ya ikhwa. MashaAllah, I can see the ulama, they're debating between one another. Look.
Don't need to do any more, the salah. So it's going to delay.
Jazakumullah khairan. Surprisingly, the hayd comes first. That's why they say, al-hayd ashad. Al-hayd And nifas, any one of basically a woman through her cycle, whether she gave birth or from her haid, is far greater than each one of these. It's severe. She has to clean herself. Does that make sense? So she has to get rid of that by doing the ritual shower. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Yes. Khair inshallah. Yes, your question was?
So how do they bury the people when there's no water?
How do they bury the people if there's no water?
Yeah, there's no water. What do they do? How do they do
No, it depends on the situation. It depends on the situation. There's a situation, for example, like COVID. They can't shower the people. They put them in body bags.
There's no water. Just like that situation. What is
If there's no water, absence of water completely.
So you're in the desert or something, and you want to bury the person.
If you just do tayammum on the body. Khalas. So tayammum applies to each one of these three. But then you're in a position where, this is a question I forgot to ask you. Do you remember your question or not? You do? Khair. What's the question?
What if you're intimate with your spouse while still wet after doing the ghusl?
What is it?
What if you're intimate with your spouse while still wet after doing the ghusl?
Basically, you did a ghusl and then you went back again.
Yeah.
You will go back to do another ghusl.
He's saying that first half and second half.
Yeah, he played the first round. No, but the thing is, if you're married, there's no first round and second round. There's no first half and second half. It depends on how many halves you want to make it. Then you must be eating a lot of lamb. Look, it's fine. Just go back to the shower again.
Even if you haven't.
It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Just go back to the shower again until your hair falls off. Now. Huh? What is it? Is what you use to shower, like soap or maybe shampoo, all of those. All right? Question I want to ask. If you are in a position where you're stranded, you cannot do wudu basically you cannot do wudu because you don't have access to water, nor can you do tayammum because you don't have access to turab. Understood? You cannot use any of those. What do you do then?
Pray.
Huh? Just pray like that? Just make intention? Huh? You just pray like that?
You only pray.
If, for example, you don't have access to water, nor do you have access to dust, basically to do ghusl or tayammum, you have access to nothing. What do you do in that case? You just get on with it. And your salah, the first salah has passed, the second salah has passed, and there's no access to anything. What do you do? وأسقط الصلاة والقضاء عن عادم صعيده والماء. Your salah and even the ones you've missed, they are all forgiven. You drop them.
You are forgiving.
Yes, you drop them. You drop the salah. Yes. Question, because this is where it comes. For example, let's say you've been abducted. Understood? Like they say, like the Palestinians today. May Allah help them. They're held hostage. For example, that's the easiest example I can make you understand. They are hanging. Let's say their hands are tied, their legs are tied. They cannot touch the ground, nor can they have access to water. These people try to look for a way to do salah, but they have access to nothing. What happens to them then? And then they go on like that for days. Do you get what I mean? Would you say that they have to pay off all of those salah, or are they forgiven with those salah? Yes.
I think in
Hanbali is different.
So I think like physically you can't pray. You've broken every bone in your body. You physically cannot pray. You can't stand. You can't do the things.
But that's different. هذا عاجز. That is عاجز. Ajiz is different. We're talking about something completely different. Ajiz is عدم القدرة, not having the ability to do anything. Not having the ability to do wudu or tayammum or all of that. That's different. Is that very clear? Like we're talking about a person that literally has access to nothing. This person who is literally not capable, incapable basically, is a person that does have access. Not that they don't have access, they do have access. But there's a person that has access to nothing. And the best example that you could have is a person that literally who pretending to want to be an astronaut, and then they are hanging around in the clouds up there, no gravity, no water, no sand, and they're left to hang around. What do they do with their salah? What happens then? Does that make sense? Or for example, I gave you the issue of hostages. What does a hostage do in this case? And there are many cases like this that have happened before. Because during the time of Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, there was a man that was held hostage and he was locked where he cannot do anything. Nor can he move, nor can he touch water, nor can he even go close to sand, to earth basically. What happens next? تسقط الصلاة. The salah goes down. Lakin, what if this person is ajiz? ليس له قدرة, is incapable because of, let's say, some paralysis and all of that. It's different. First of all, this person must have someone to assist them, which is the default. And if not, it depends on how they can. For example, they are doing their wudu, in the middle of their wudu, they fall off, they fall down, they're paralyzed completely, and there's no one close to them and salah time has entered. What do they do at that moment? For what they can at that moment, they pray from in their minds. Because this is different. And what we've mentioned is different. Does that make sense? Yeah. Although the other madhahib have a different stance on that. Okay. Yes. Ajiz, a person who is incapable. Okay? Let's carry on. We said number one is intention. Number two is filling the whole body with water. تعميم جميع البدن بالماء. تعميم الجسد بالماء. That's what he used. Number three is دلك جميع الجسد. To the Ahnaf, you want to take a ritual bath, go to the beach and take a deep dive. You're fine. Is that correct? To عند الأحناف, to the Hanafi school, just make the intention you're doing ghusl, wear your shorts and go to the beach, take a deep dive. Your ghusl is complete.
Really?
Nia is fine.
Yes.
Then Kuli.
Wudu.
No.
Not
Just
the
This is the
Okay.
mountain, yeah?
All right.
Then whole body is.
If you're at the beach, مثلا. If you're at the beach.
Yeah, that's the same thing he will reply.
Is it?
I think you just died now.
Yeah, you go.
Completed.
Al-Muhim, in the madhab, you must do dalk. What is dalk? You have to rub over the entire body. Okay? But then when it comes to rubbing over, this is where it lies. He doesn't provide you with everything over here. For example, he just says in the sharh, مثلا ودلك بأي عضو كان. فلا يشترط خصوص اليد هنا بخلاف الوضوء. And he doesn't provide that much detail. Question is, if we say dalk to rub over your body, does it necessarily have to be your hand? The answer is no. It doesn't have to be your hand. When you rub over your entire body, even if you have, let's say, a towel, this towel, you're holding it from one end to the other. This hand and this hand. You use it to rub your body, is fine. Lakin al-ulama, they provide that it is makruh to rub your body on the walls of the toilet. Some crazy person does it. Or you tell someone else to do it for you. Only if that person is your spouse. Or maybe your slave girl or man. Which that doesn't exist anymore. Isn't it? But your wives do. Your wives can shower you wherever you want. You're fine. And in fact, they save you from breaking your wudu. Your wives. I would say wife. He's trying to put me in trouble. But your wives, you're right. Let's make it plural. For the one who can. All right. Someone can do it for you. That is only your spouse, your halal basically. And another, for example, is using a towel on places where you can't reach. Now, when you're rubbing over your body, does it really have to be your hands? It doesn't. You can use any part of your body. Let's say you want to rub over your feet and that. You can just go like this. Skin to skin is fine. Different from wudu. Wudu, it requires you to use your two palms to do everything. Does that make sense? Ghusl, you rub over using what you have, and if you want, you can put literally gloves in your hands as well. It's fine. Does that make sense? If you wear something ahata bihi aydik, something that literally has gone over your hands, or maybe something that you carry with you, it's fine. As long as you're not using anything which is haram. Don't use pig skin and then say it's fine. You're just going to be putting najasa on yourself. Doesn't make sense. Okay, that's number 3. Number 4, al-fawru. What is al-fawru? مع الذكر والقدرة. If you are capable and you remember, you have to do it quickly. Basically, you follow them along. While number 5, I don't want to go into too much detail. Otherwise, it's as we just started with details and then we carried on like that. Otherwise, we're not going to cover everything. تخليل الشعر. And this is really important. It is to make sure that you fill your hair with water. Now, this poses the question of, just a second, don't forget your question there. Umar ibn al-Khattab, when he was the Khalifa, he would literally give a verdict, a fatwa, to women to undo their hair. Understood? When Aisha radiallahu anha heard this, she went to Umar radiallahu anha and told her a statement, and told Umar radiallahu anhu, she told him a statement I even forgot the question, but it was really harsh. It was a harsh statement. I didn't want to remember it, and Allah made me not remember it. And she basically told him, you would rather tell them to get rid of something, and I don't know, get rid of Islam as well, something like that. Why would you command them to undo their hair? While when I was with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and I have braids on my head, I braided my hair, I wouldn't have to undo my hair. I would just fill my hair with water and carry on with my wudu, with my ghusl. So Umar immediately changed his fatwa, radiallahu anhu. And as you know, the madhab of Malik is built upon the madhab of whom? We said it at the very beginning, madhab of whom? Umar ibn al-Khattab and Abdullah ibn Umar. Understood? And Umar ibn al-Khattab, when he came to these masail, he would take directly from Aisha. Where you can say all of the madhahib, they're built by the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the next one are whom? The wives. On matters that nobody had access to except for the wives. So every madhab takes from the wives. Does that make sense? The madhab, the ahnaf, the ahnaf, your madhab is built upon whom? Which sahaba? Do you remember? Come on. Be proud of your madhab. It's built upon the sahaba Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. He was known as Habrul Quran, the master of Quran. Umar ibn Khattab, he literally met an army that came back from a war, or maybe they were coming from Kufa, and they entered Medina. He doesn't see the leader, and he speaks to the leader at that time. And as Umar ibn Khattab asks fiqh questions, and asks questions related to the Quran, the responder literally is responding in the most magnificent way. Beautiful. Umar ibn Khattab immediately asked, Afikum Abdullah ibn Mas'ud? Is between you, among you, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud? He knows the taste of everyone. That's how the Sahaba knew one another. They knew who was the alim and who was not. Understood? So the madhab of the Ahnaf is built upon Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Don't forget that. Inshallah. Let's carry on. When it comes to Takhlilu Sha'r, the Messenger ﷺ says it in this hadith, and there's a sharh of this hadith. And we don't want to enter into the hadith itself and the sharh of it, but we're just going to say, if you have braids, you don't have to undo them as long as إِلَّمْ يَقْوَ الشَّدْ. If you have not tightened your braids, you're fine. If you've made them extremely tight, you have to undo them because water won't go through. However, what about a woman that wears extensions? What does she do? They say if it's like 1 or 2 strings, it's fine. As long as it's not what? Tight. The rule here is tight. But if she is to wear a lot of extensions, like some of the sisters, that's what they do, isn't it? They wear so many extensions, what happens? They have to undo their hair. Because you wouldn't be able to know, to differentiate between the actual hair and the extensions, and how would the water penetrate through the hair rather than the extensions. Yes, your question.
In the matter, what's the situation on extensions in the first place?
Hmm? Wearing extensions? No. But then the ulama cannot leave it out, cannot turn a blind eye. Yes.
Does apply for the braids? Apply for both men and women?
Yes.
So then,
But for men, open your hair.
yeah. So I'm talking about, you know that people that get like the tight braids. So would
Yeah.
that haircut be haram because you can't do ghusl?
Would they what?
You know people that get braids, for example, like men that get braids.
Yeah.
Would that haircut be haram in the sense you can't do ghusl with the hair?
Would that haircut be haram?
Yeah. That hairstyle.
Let's say Rasta.
No, that. It's actual braids. You see
Right.
people get braids these days.
If their hair, we wouldn't. It's not. Look, it's not recommended to do so. Yeah, like it wouldn't be haram for you to let's say if you have that hairstyle and all of that stuff. Can you pray? And yes, of course you can. It's fine. Like it when you're doing ghusl, open it. Does that make sense? For the women, it's different. Bear that in mind. Let's say, for example, a woman, because a woman is expected to do that. A woman with braids, that's the expectation. And beyond that, not in any case, not every case, because when it comes to wudu, and she has braids and she has to make sure her hair is wiped fully with water, what happens? She will have to undo her braids for the wudu. Does that make sense? If she has braids all over her hair, she has to undo it for wudu. That's how it is. However, coming back to this ghusl issue, if for example you've forgotten to wash your hand, what do? You wash your hand, you come back and just wash your hand, isn't it? But then we pose the question on this: what if you forgot to wash your head?
You continue.
Huh? It does happen. It does happen. Let's say you're using a bucket, isn't it? And you have a little jug. Sometimes your shower ain't working, or you don't like showers, depending on the person. Or maybe you're in a position where you have to use a bucket and a jug. As you're doing that, you forget your head. Now you can wash your face, you can wash your beard. Question is, what about your head? Because it's a part of wudu, do I just wipe on it and then go on? Or what do I do?
The water needs to finish.
Huh?
If it's for Muslim, the water has to.
Which means you're supposed to do what? Jazakumullah khairan. You're supposed to wash. Understood? Different from every other part of your body. You know the default for your head is to wipe, isn't it? But because it's for ghusl, what do?
Wash.
You wash. You don't wipe.
Wash the hair or the head.
You wash the head, which is your hair.
But if you're bald, like
If you're bald, you do the same.
it's waterproof.
I like that, it's true. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in these majalis. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Now there are other masail, and we have, I don't think just 5 more minutes and we conclude with that. Although I can't cover everything. I'm trying my best. When I said this, for example, we're going to run through this, little do you realize that there are so many issues you have to cover in between. That's how fiqh works. Especially when it comes to the first third of your ibadah. When it comes to fiqh itself, the first third of ibadat, some ulama, they say it's even the first half of ibadah. It's what? Salah related only. When it comes to your ibadah, worshipping Allah, is the first half or the first third is all just salah, and the rest come after that. That's how you notice the other chapters, they're very short. But when it comes to salah, no jokes. Because you have every single topic you want there. First of all, it comes to the prerequisites of salah. What you need to fulfill before the salah. That's number one. You have to know what is najasa, what is a najis. How do you stay away from a najis? They are literally a najis which is tangible najis. There's a najis which is not tangible but is regarded as najis in the Sharia. How do you get rid of it? Number two. Number three, what nullifies your wudu? How do you do wudu? What if you, in the case of, let's say, janaba, hayd, or janazah, all of that stuff, what do you do? Ghusl. What are the ahkam of ghusl? If you miss all of that, you're left with the situation of tayammum. Now, what are the rules of tayammum? When do you do tayammum? How? All of those. If you don't understand those, it becomes a bit of an issue of your ibadah, especially meaning your salah. Because bear this in mind. أول ما يحاسب به العبد يوم القيامة صلاته. The first that you will be accounted for on the day of judgment is your salah. In saluhat sa'ir al-a'mal. If it is healthy, all of your a'mal, your deeds are healthy. Wa in fasadat, if it's corrupt, everything else means nothing. If you go to your Lord, you haven't prayed, don't even wait for the next questions. Your questioning will be very short. So when someone tells you, Allah will question you, you're only going to have a few questions, literally tell them, wait, what do you mean? Short question because you're meaning I'm a good person, or you're accusing me for being a criminal. Because there's no who is good. I'll tell you. Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi. Has anybody heard of him? Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, the most ruthless Umayyad commander. For Dawlat al-Umayyah, the Umayyad dynasty, when he existed, he was the ruthless commander, that he would literally harass the Sahaba. He would harass Anas ibn Malik, the beloved Anas ibn Malik, to the Prophet ﷺ, to a level where Anas ibn Malik has to write a letter to the Khalifa and tell him, look, are you going to remain silent while the house of the Messenger ﷺ is being harassed? And that's when the Khalifa had to send out a letter to Hajjaj ibn Yusuf and tell him, look, if you do not stop, the entire army of the Muslim nation will come and attack you with your army. Let go of the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because Anas ibn Malik was not just Anas. Anas was family to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Understood? This Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, he was so good in Arabic that when he held one of the men, I don't know, it was in Iraq, he asked him, what do you say of me? What do you think I am? He said, Anta qasitun adil. Now qasit is related to someone being just. And adil means the same thing, someone who is just enough. Hajjaj ibn Yusuf literally beheaded him straight away. He was asked why. Why did he behead him? He said, you don't understand what he means. Because if you read in Surah Al-Jinn, Allah says, وَأَمَّا الْقَاسِطُونَ فَكَانُوا لِجَهَنَّمَ حَطَبًا. And those who have gone astray, qasit, to them Jahannam belongs. So the word qasid does not belong to justice alone. It means someone that has literally turned like a bow. And when he said adil, it means that literally someone that took a wrong turn. Same thing. So Hajjaj was smart enough, similar to this situation. Understood? So not everything that you're told, you take it positively. Sometimes someone is cursing you and you don't know. So be careful. Hajjaj understood. There's so many we can say about Hajjaj. He has his good side and he has his most evil side. Did you know Hajjaj, no matter how many people he beheaded, he used to pray 100 rak'ah every night? Yes. Don't be shocked, Sayyidi. He beheaded more than 100 people. And the last person he beheaded was a Sahaba known as Jubayr. This is the Sahaba that when he wanted to behead him, to literally get rid of him, if he would turn him this way, what would Jubayr say? فَأَيْنَمَا تُوَلُّوا فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. And then when he would turn him to the other side, he would tell him, فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. He was just quoting to him verses related to Qibla and all of that. Hajjaj was fed up. He did away with it. Like in the dua of Jubayr was that, Ya Allah, make me to be the last person that he ever touched. And that dua did go through. He never touched anyone. The only thing he saw was nightmares after that until he passed away. Understood? And this was a man who would also pray at night. How many rak'ahs we said? 100. Don't forget that. Something to mention. Mujibatul ghusl. What leads to ghusl? They say inqita'u damil hayd wal nifas, which is not added in the text. Only he has it after me. Understood? And I would only advise those who want to be serious students of knowledge, like yourself. You must buy that. Okay? Keep it in your library, even if you're a Shafi'i. It is the stopping of the blood of hayd and nifas. Wal maut, death. Don't forget that. Wal wiladah bila dam. It is to do what? To give birth. And they say bila dam, like in whether with blood or no blood. It doesn't matter. Regardless. Basically, you go through nifas. Wal-Islamu and Islam, which he mentioned as well, but we said that's something different. Wal-Janaba, who said Janaba? Family matter. Janaba, you said Hayd, isn't it? وَتَحْصُلُ بِأَشْيَاء. And this Janaba only happens by the following reasons. from among them, not all of them, from among them, maghibul hashafa is the disappearing of the head of the penis. Understood? They say, ومن مغيب حشفة في أيما فرج وغسل الميت أو من أسلم وموجبات الغسل عند الناس ست فقاطع الحيض والنفاس. Understood? ومن مني خارج بلذة معتادة في نوم أو في يقظة ومن مغيب حشفة في أيما, when the head of the penis disappears in a place where it should not, if you don't want to take a shower basically, even if it's somewhere which is halal, you have to take a shower even if there is no inzal. Basically there is no ejaculation. Understood? If it doesn't happen, even if that little piece touches the private part of a woman, whether the halal part or the haram part, even if it's astaghfirullah al-azim, when it comes to LGBTQ, same-sex genders and all of those stuff, you have to go take ghusl. Does that make sense? I know this is very weird, but we have to say it. The ulama did not put this aside. Bear that in mind. When you read the Hashia, which is the biggest, the greatest explanation on the fiqh side of this book, let alone this, if you go to the main books and they start breaking down masail piece after piece, sometimes you would even want to close your eyes. But it's a fact. It's there, you have to read it and you have to know it. Does that make sense? You're not a faqih if you don't know these issues. أو قدرها من مقطوعها, even if it's just a part of it, while the dhakar itself is literally what? It is cut. Let's say, for example, there's some people, ومثله الألكن والمحدود وذو جذام خفل الشديد. Some people, they do not have the full private part. They could, for example, someone who had cancer, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, they had to go get operated, isn't it? A piece of their private part has to be removed. So they're only left with a piece of that. And even if it's a little piece that enters into where you shouldn't, because you don't want to do ghusl, but you've done that, you have to do ghusl. So it doesn't matter. Understood? When he said over here, the head of the penis, it was just for context, but it means any part. And then he says, وَلَوْ فِي فَرْجِ مَيْتَةٍ. Now listen to this. Even if it's in the private part of a dead person, which is far worse, it's mentioned over here, أَوْ دُبُرٍ, or the black private part, أَوْ لُجَّتْ, أَوْ لُجْت. No, I wouldn't mention lujt, I would mention what word is it. Allah. أو ثقب امرأة أو امرأة ذكر بهيمة في فرجها قاله أبو الحسن. Even if someone who is extremely nasty, he would even want to do it with an animal, it doesn't matter. So just bear that in mind. The ulama had to mention these so that it can be very clear, inshaAllah ta'ala. And we'll stop it over here, bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Now, if you have a question, please don't make it weird, because of the last thing that we just read. Yes?
Just quick, I think maybe my mind was somewhere. But تخليل الشعر, that one is...
Yeah, تخليل الشعر is the fifth one, is to make your hair completely wet. Yes, to fill your hair with water. وخلل الشعر ووالك الوضوء. So you have to make sure your hair. Yes.
You said that in the Malik fiqh, that man is semen is
Najasa.
najasa.
It's najasa, impure.
Now with the hadith of Aisha, it says that the Prophet had one of his garments and she scratched it. So there was dry many of semen and she scratched it and prayed in it. So how do we now take the both?
We agree with that hadith as well. Jazakumullah khairan. Did you hear the question? Or do I have to repeat it? The question was, in the madhab we say sperms are najis, impure, isn't it? Now, according to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which Aisha radiallahu anha, she narrates that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam would do farq. What is farq? For example, he would have some dry semen on his clothes. So rather than washing it, he would just scrape it off and then go pray. How do we reconcile that hadith with many being najis? Isn't it? Anyway, we agree with the hadith. But then the same applies to if your clothes, let's say, it has a spot of blood, and blood, it depends on how thick it was, it can dry completely. If you don't wash it and you scrape it off and that blood goes away, your clothes become tahir again. It's like, for example, you have najasa in your hand and you wipe it off with tissue, you don't have to wash it. And then you carry on with your ibadah. Does that make sense? And then on top of that, there are certain ahadith which relate to the tahara of mani, which have been superseded with other hadith, abrogated with other hadith. I hope that makes sense. Anyone else?
How many farad?
Hello? Then it's him. He's already had a chance.
How many farad did you cover of ghusl today?
Five.
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 Five on this.
If you ask me from the book, I'll read it. فَفُرُوضُهُ فَخَمْسٌ خَمْسٌ فَتَنْوِي غُسْلَكَ نِيَّةً وَعَمِّمِ الْجِسْمَ, and you have to fill your whole body with water. بِالْمَا وَدْلُكَ دَلْكُ جَمِيعٍ بَسَدٍ is to wipe over your entire body, to rub over your entire body. وَخَلِّلِ الشَّعْرَ, and to wash your entire head. وَوَالِكَ الْوُضُوء, الْفَوْرُ is to follow along. وَسُنَّ الْإِسْتِنشَاقُ وَالتَّمَضْمُضُ, understood? Which is to do al-fawru, to follow along quickly as you wash over your entire body. Those are five. Does that count as five?
Just a clarification of that question. So if the impurity can be scraped away, then you can pray in say if it's on your fold.
Yeah, if that najasa does not exist anymore, understood? Because you've scraped it away, you can carry on.
But then the rules be a mark.
The mark, that's why we say في ريحها أو لونها إن عسر عفو وما في طعمها العفو يرى وكل ما شق فعنه يعفى. Take that qaida. Every one of those which are difficult to get rid of, فعنه يعفى, is forgiven. For example, a child poos on you, a new kid, okay, and it's a girl. And basically, when it comes to stool, it doesn't matter boy or girl. Understood? Different from the boy. A boy, if it's just born and it's breastfeeding for the first few months and that, their urine can be washed away. Just touched a little bit. بالرشة. Lakin when it comes, what they call it an-nadhu, it is just to splash, to spray some water. But when it comes to the woman, the girl, you have to wash completely compared to the boy. However, when it comes to stool, let's say, child ate whatever they ate, and then they ruined their pampers, exploded, and then they ruined your clothes. Let's say the clothes this white, okay, or that white, and then that mark stays. No matter how you wash, the mark stays. As long as the odor has gone to a certain extent, also the taste has gone to a certain extent, and the mark stays, the stain stays, you're fine. Yes.
Regarding وَالْدَلُكُ جَمِيعِ الْجَسَدِ, if you're using the shower, if your hand is not reaching, as long as the water reach everywhere, it's going to be fine.
Yes. Jazakumullah khairan. Very good point. Let's say, for example, you have nothing to assist yourself with while you're taking a ghusl. We're talking about this ghusl, not just a normal shower, the actual ritual shower. If, for example, you don't have anything to assist yourself, and while you try to rub over behind your hands, you're not that flexible behind your back, you can only reach to certain places. What you do is, you try your best, and whatever you can't do, you're forgiven. So the same applies. وَكُلُّ مَا شَقَّ, and everything that's difficult, فَعَنْهُ يُعْفَى. Understood? Is forgiven. Because the Sharia came to do what? رَفْعُ الْمَشَقَّةِ, to lift the mashaqqa.
As long as the water reach everywhere.
Yes. But you don't purposely say, I'm not going to rub my cheek, and you're fine. No, you're not fine. Done?
For Jummah, normally we have intention for Jummah when you do ghusl, right? Can you combine the Salatul Jummah and Salatul Janab?
And ghusl janaba, or do it while you're showering, that's fine. Yeah, ta'addudun niyyah, the multiplication, the multiplying of niyyah, intention in one position is fine. It's like, for example, you come to the masjid, you don't have time. For example, you want to pray 2 rak'at before salah, and you want to do tahiyyatul masjid as well. You combine the two. Does that make sense? Combine the two, inshallah. And that's it. Jazakumullah khairan. I'll see you next week, inshallah. Barakallah feekum. Assalamu alaikum.
place you get, the same place you get the small one?
I'll send you a link so you can find it.
Sure. You send me first, so that you send me the picture, then send me the link as well as
We'll just send you the link.
Okay.
Yeah, no. It looks like he's prepared as well.
Yep.
Yeah? So that's what I want. No.
Student knowledge.
Hello? Hello? I wanted to just to buy just because he sends me this. So what I do is
পাসওয়ার্ড চিঠিতে আসে না পুরো লেকচার নিলাম না এই কোন দাও বা যাওয়ার কথা এটা কি লাগে পাসওয়ার্ড কোডা শর্ট এটা ইউজার আইডি এটা আছে এটা পাইছি আমি মেইলে পাইছি পাসওয়ার্ড বাই লেখা ইউজার লেকচার মনে আছে ওইটা সেট করে সিমে কোপায় বললো কারণ আমার সিম নাই তো এই জন্য তো অফিসে যাওয়া হবে সিম নাই ফোন দিলেও হবে, আমি দেখি কালকে জ্বর আসবে, ফোন দিলেও হবে, দেখাচ্ছিল কালকে জ্বর আসবে, ফোন দিব, ফোন দিয়ে করা যাবে মনে হয়, দেখাচ্ছিল জ্বর আসবে তো অফিসে গেলে খালি তো কি নেবে এগুলো কেউ দেখতে পাবে। কালকে ফোন দিব জ্বর পরে, ফোন দিয়েও দেখাচ্ছিল ফোন দিলেও হবে, ফোন দিয়ে না হলে তো আর কীভাবে বুধবারে বসে যাবো।
Cold now, isn't it?
Get a jacket.
I'm a hot person. Today.
Petrol inside. They have petrol inside.
No, it's the trawler. It's not a trawler. It's a trawler.
The thing in the sea, the speedboat. You know the speedboat?
No, the trawler is like the fisherman boat.
Yes, the fishing boat.
The trawler fishing boat. It's fishing, not shower.
Do you know contents tomorrow?
I went to my place, yeah?
Okay.
What's it?
Okay.
Ask it to look at you do that something.
You won't believe that.
You'll ask it, I can
Free Polish, yeah? Brand new, yeah?
You'll ask it, that's it.
Good quality.
দুইটা
6 to 10 pounds.
ওই আগের দিন আর ওই দিন বা পরের দিন ওই
Yeah, the guy was loads, different size, different colors, good quality.
Polo.
Polo, jumper. I don't know what he got. Even if I said 6 for 10 pounds. Yeah, he said, I'll take one for you. Yeah, 5, take one for you. Yeah, I got the tap, 10 pounds, buying the tap.
Really? How you always buying taps?
Because I work for them, I do plumbing, electric, carpentry, that's my job.
Handyman.
Handyman, yeah.
বুধবারে কয়টার দিকে যাবেন?
Is it your day job? Handyman.
Yeah.
সকালে
What do you usually, what's your main plumbing?
জ্বর পরে চলে যাবো।
Electric. And I work
এটা কাজে লাগবে মানে
I'm a contractor with all the hotels. Because the company I work, I'm becoming subcontractor.
এটা কি আপনি ইয়ে করছিলেন যে কি
It's all the hotels, all the
electric.
food is coming, you know. Today I was in Ibis
Okay.
Hotel.